What's up everyone and welcome back to another Rise recap. This time it's all about episode 4 titled Victory Party, and well, let's just say it's more of a sad loser party than a victory party. Now in this episode, love blossoms, choices are made, and well, I've learned that basically almost all the adults in this town are dicks. Yeah, like seriously, I don't like any of the adults except maybe Tracy and Andy, who we meet in this episode. But other than that, all the parents not a fan of. Simon's mom, though, is slowly redeeming herself, but other than that, every other adult seems really selfish, and so far there's no signs of Lou or his wife gaining any progress towards being likable. Now, my mini rant is over, so let's just break down this episode. Gail and Lou are planning to head to Pittsburgh for the weekend for their niece's production of Cats, and well, Gail doesn't think it's a good idea to leave Gordy alone, so they're trying to force him to come with them. Tracy keeps texting Lou at all hours with ideas for a lot of things, which prompts Gail to be kind of bitchy and say Tracy needs to get her own life. Well, thanks to Lou's selfishness, Tracy may be getting a life. Lou again during rehearsal is being an ass and not listening to every person telling him that the lighting board can't handle what he wants done. That causes the power to end up going out, which has them call on Mr. Cranepool or Andy for help. Andy definitely has a crush on Tracy, and when she leaves the lighting booth, Lou sees an opportunity and suggests that Andy asks Tracy out because she's so-called very single. Andy decides to man up and ask his crush out and strikes out because Tracy's just one tough cookie to crack. She says no to dinner with him. Later one night though, after the game, Tracy's in the auditorium practicing her dance moves and she thinks she's alone when all of a sudden the spotlight comes on. When she goes up to the lighting booth, Andy's there with his electrician brother and they fix the lighting board. Andy then starts to apologize for asking Tracy out, but Tracy ends up saying, okay, let's go to dinner tonight. Well, as expected, that dinner's off to a rocky start and begins to get more awkward, especially when Tracy learns about her reputation and that Lou had suggested Andy ask her out. Tracy is now furious and calls up Lou to give him a piece of her mind, but he's in a car with Gail on a mission to find Gordy, so he just doesn't give a rat's ass about what Tracy is saying to him, even though what she's saying is kind of true. She's pissed at him for making assumptions about her life and interfering with her life, but of course, she's calling him, and that's an inconvenience to him, and she even brings up, oh, am I interfering with your life? But he pretty much just blows her off and hangs up on her. Andy then comes outside, and Tracy's just ready to leave the date, but Andy says to her that he really does like her, and she's changed so many kids' lives, and he calls her luminous, and you know what? Tracy ends up perking up and going back in to finish the date, and it seems like things go well from there. Andy walks Tracy to her door and he says maybe they can do it again sometime, and she actually agrees. Well, she says she has to think on it, but says it could happen, and we see them have a nice little kiss, and Tracy even gives a smile. Get it, Tracy. Like, she deserves happiness, and I'm excited that we're getting more of Tracy, and I want to see more of her backstory because maybe then we'll see why she's been single so long, why she hasn't married, and why she's so devoted to teaching these kids and in love with this theater program. Moving on to why Gail and Lou are so cranky in this episode. They go to visit Aunt Leslie, which I think is which is Gail's sister. I can't remember if they said, but yeah. It seems like Leslie has this perfect life, and we get a nice Lou and Gordy moment actually where they both joke about Aunt Leslie poking fun at her. Now it seems like a little bit of progress is being made, but of course that is just the beginning of Gordy attempting to manipulate Lou, which Lou falls for. Gordy asks if he can actually stay home from the play and hang out with cousin Chad, and Lou ends up saying it's fine. Well, it's pretty easy to tell just how this is gonna go. After the play is over, Lou gawks the fancy school's equipment and tries asking Leslie if she'd be willing to donate to the Stanton Theater program, but since none of Lou's kids are in the show, she's like, yeah, I'll think on it, which pretty much means no. When they return home, Chad informs them that Gordy's friends came to pick him up, and yep, Lou and Gail go into total freak-out mode. Gordy ends up at Robbie's victory party where he is indeed drinking again and flirting with Gwen. Now, what's one of the most embarrassing things that can happen to you when you're in high school and at a party? Your parents showing up to try to bring you home, and that's exactly what happens to Gordy. Gordy ends up going outside to see his parents, but he's not really smart enough to leave his red Solo cup inside. That of course causes problems. Gordy lies about what's in his cup. Shouting begins, a shove match even breaks out as Lou tries to force Gordy in the car, and things just get ugly. Gordy ends up going back to the party, and Lou and Gail return home and are up all night waiting for Gordy to return. The episode ends with them staring at the door, but no Gordy in sight. Now let's talk about Robbie's victory party, or lack thereof victory. Robbie's dad is basically one of those guys who's living through his son's sports career and really pushing his son and grooming him to try to be the star athlete. Now I honestly don't know what's worse, stage moms or sports dads. Anyway, at rehearsals, Robbie invites Lillette to his victory party the day after the game, and Lillette asks if she can invite someone because, you know what, she doesn't have a car, so Robbie says sure. Simon overhears, and Lillette asks Simon to go with her her, but Simon asks her if this is a date for her and Robbie or not, and Lillette just says she doesn't know. Well, Simon actually wants answers for what Robbie is really doing with his girl Lillette, so Simon confronts Robbie in the hall and brings up the blonde girl Stephanie that we've seen Robbie kissing. Robbie says they're not dating, they just vibe, and Simon tells Robbie that if he hurts Lillette, he will kill Robbie. Yeah, you go, Simon. I think we all need a good friend like Simon. Well, this little encounter ends up causing Robbie at the game to tell Lillette that now he just wants her to come to the party alone. In the stands, though, Simon doesn't know about this, and Simon ends up telling Annabelle he can't go out with her because of the party, and Annabelle takes that as an invitation to this party, and well, like telephone, word spreads about this party to the theater kids. As far as the game goes, there are scouts there to look at Jamal, but of course Robbie's dad is trying to sell his son to the scouts as well. The game starts off really well, but then suddenly starts going south as Stanton ends up losing to a team they haven't lost to in 10 years. Well, you can guess that the mood at the victory party isn't so victorious, and Robbie's dad encourages him to go win the team back, so Robbie goes and gives them this really good speech and pep talk, and they're getting amped up, but the mood is immediately killed when Macius and Michael show up. More theater kids show up bringing their instruments, and well, the party just gets weirder as the theater kids bust out in sing-alongs as the football players just look on very confused. Now, in a very predictable turn of events, Robbie's dad sees Robbie hugging Lillette and takes her to the creepy Shrine of Robbie room and tells her that Robbie doesn't need any distractions. Things take a turn when two football players start teasing Michael and making derogatory remarks towards him and then Macius. Things start to get physical when Robbie intervenes and is basically forced to choose sides. He ends up sticking up for Michael, and Jamal is like, I guess we know what side you're on. Robbie then says that the party is over and goes to pout in his trophy room. Lillette goes to talk to Robbie and thank him for sticking up for Michael, but Robbie snaps at Lillette, saying that she has no idea what this move just cost him. Lillette ends up going home with her tail between her legs. She's sitting in bed sad, staring at her phone, hoping that Robbie will call or something. Thankfully, Robbie does wisen up and texts Lillette and comes over and apologizes to her and tells her that she's the only good thing to happen to him in the past few days, and, well, they share a kiss. As far as Simon goes, when Simon is singing the national anthem at the game with Lillette and the other theater kids, we see just how proud of him his mom is, and she even continues to go to bat for him with this St. Francis decision. Jeremy ends up driving Simon home from the party since he's drunk, and Jeremy tells Simon how good of an actor and singer he is, and how during rehearsals, Jeremy sometimes forgets that the scenes they're doing aren't real. Jeremy's basically trying to express his feelings for Simon, gauge Simon's interest, and even seems like he wants to make an attempt to lean in and kiss Simon or something, but Simon is just so drunk he's not picking up on any of the signals or what's going on, and he ends up leaving the car and going straight inside to puke in the bathroom. Simon's parents come out of the room, and Simon's mom says that what's happening is turning Simon into someone they don't recognize, but Simon's dad just continues to say, oh, it'll be fine when he goes to St. Francis and whatnot. However, Simon's mom really wants to revisit this whole decision because she's having a change of heart. She also sees how it's affecting Simon's sister, but yeah, Simon's dad doesn't seem to be budging and wants to continue with this St. Francis idea. Even though it does seem like at the end of the scene, Simon's dad has this look like he knows what he's doing may be wrong. And well, that wraps up the main events of this week's episode. Lou and Gail still having trouble parenting Gordy, and instead of trying to talk to him and treat him like an adult, have a real conversation, the yelling and stuff just continues. Tracy's starting to loosen up, which I like, and I'm interested to see what happens with Simon. But for now, let's watch the promo for the next episode.
Robbie's dad thinks that I'm not good enough for him.
As their relationship reaches a crossroads,
We're scene partners, and that's it. That's all we should be, okay?
Okay.
another
So you gonna see him again?
takes flight. And a mother
Keep your hands off.
finds the courage
Don't!
to fight back.
Well, it looks like the drama definitely continues. Very proud of Lillette's mom for taking a stand at her workplace, which is a very relevant storyline. And I feel like Robbie and Lillette's relationship, it's already had so many ups and downs that they're not like even really dating. So I'd hate to see how many problems they have if they really do become a couple, because I'm getting a little tired of it, but yet I'm also kind of rooting for them. Also, you go, Tracy. You deserve to be happy. You get yourself a good man. Now, the show is starting to get slowly better each episode, but it's still pretty slow and very predictable and nothing super original. It just feels sort of unbalanced, if that makes sense. And as far as my favorites on the show, I'm still going with Rosie Perez and, of course, auli'i. Now it's your turn, though, to sound off in the comments below and let me know what you thought of this week's episode. Favorite moments, least favorite moment. What do you think is going to happen with Gordy? Will Simon's parents have a change of heart? Will Lou ever stop being selfish? Let me know what you think, and you can click right over here for this week's recap of Shadowhunters. Subscribe if you like what you see. Be sure to hit that thumbs up. My name is Lisa. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again soon.